Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to the episode of my F1 2021 My Team Career Mode, episode number 31 today for the Dutch Grand Prix in Season 2. If you guys did miss the previous one at the Belgium Grand Prix, then be sure to check that one out. We did have some rain at Spa, but thankfully we had way more than just 2 laps under a safety car around Spa-Francorchamps, and it was a chaotic race, and we technically... We did cross the line in first place, but we didn't win the race. If you haven't watched that, then definitely go check it out, because you'll know what I mean by that. But, it was, a bittersweet race there, because I was really happy with how we drove, apart from the mistake, obviously. We showed some really good pace, finally, actually, and, clever strategy versus Sergio Perez, and a lot of the grid, and myself and Ricciardo were in prime position, but, of course, the mistake that I had before that, before we even saw that strategy come into play with the wet curb on the end of the Kemmel Straight really hampered that and gave us a 5-second penalty. So in the end, as you can clearly see by that table, we finished in 5th place. But Ricciardo was the one that benefited. He won the Belgium Grand Prix, his 3rd win of the season. You can see how many DNFs he's had, but he now has overtaken us for a 3rd in the championship. So we need to pull up our socks. We want to try and at least maintain that best of the rest behind our 2 championship rivals and contenders so far, which is Sebastian Vettel and Sergio Perez. Perez with a DNF, an engine failure. Vettel had one at Hungary, so it's 2 apiece to them, one after the other. So kind of a fine balance between the 2. So it's all to play for still, and it's all still rather close in the standings. In terms of R&D then, as we continue to improve the car to make sure we don't fall behind our rivals and to, aid, Perez v Vettel, and to aid ourselves to have great races and try and score consistent points still in this season. We're going to continue to upgrade the engine, because we have been actually slumping a little bit in the engine department. I didn't really realize how much the other teams around us were upgrading the power unit, but they have, to the point where we, at one point earlier in the season, we were top 3, and then suddenly I found myself like an episode or 2 later, I was in the bottom 4. So we need to really try and step that up and make sure we don't kind of dawdle with that. And in terms of HQ events, well, this was a really weird one. We have driver training, but I physically couldn't choose the simulator time, because I think Perez had so much racecraft anyway. I think he's 100 racecraft on the stats, so we had to go with the gym to give him 7 plus on experience. So I'm not complaining about, because if he's already maxed out in the racecraft, or pretty damn high, he's 91 plus 9, so he's 100 rated in racecraft, then we may as well go for experience and gain a little bit more R&D, I guess, in the practice programs, because of course the higher experience is for the AI teammate, the higher they naturally are earning R&D in those practice sessions. But things are looking a bit odd in terms of for a few drivers. You got Alonso with massive focus, 90 focus, despite him and Red Bull doing so woeful as of late. And then Perez has slumped a little bit on focus, which is a bit of a shame, but we haven't seen him drop his performance level, so I don't know what that's about. And we've had other drivers there in the driver market, which I'm looking at their focus and I'm thinking it doesn't really match up to what they are in real life. But I guess maybe, obviously, off the summer break, things may have changed in terms of the training they did with their own AI teams. And in terms of the R&D chart, this is what I mean by we need to continue to upgrade, because we're going to get caught up, and we have been caught up indeed. Ferrari and McLaren, they're near enough where we are on the R&D chart, and for a large part of this season, ever since I think Austria or France, we've been ahead of them and felt pretty comfy, especially off the back of Silverstone. We had that massive crest and gap to them, and they've caught us right back up, so we need to be wary of Leclerc, Sainz, Ricciardo, Norris. Obviously, Ricciardo just won the last race. Ferrari have been looking better in qualifying as of late, so they're definitely there, not only on paper, but in the race. And then in terms of the Aston Martin and Mercedes squabble, looks like Aston Martin are plateauing with us, and Mercedes are powering on through. Whether that means they're actually going to be quick again, I don't know, because I think Hamilton's lost so much focus in this season, and Bottas as well, to be fair, that we're very much getting F1 2020 vibes from Lewis Hamilton's AI. He's just not got any luck and kind of no performance either, so it's one to watch. But we go into then Saturday for the Dutch GP. Now, this one is going to be difficult. We've had a good Belgium Grand Prix where I showed great race pace. This one, I'm telling you flat out, is going to be a difficult one. Not because, our car doesn't suit the circuit, but because the ZANDVOORT, the Dutch Grand Prix, it is such a difficult circuit on this game. The AI are so overpowered on the mid-corner apex speed and it gets worse, I feel, as the cars get maxed out or get improved. That difference and discrepancy in the mid-corner speed is just even worse. So I'm actually I'm setting the tone for this episode. I think we'll be lucky if we get a top 5 finish. If I had to predict, I think we're going to be fighting for those last other points, you know, from P5 downwards. Even, you know, P6 and 7 would be a really good result, I feel, because that's the difference there is here at Zandvoort for not only myself to Perez, but every other, you know, team and AI there, because they're just so good mid-corner. There's also a bit of, you know, for myself, I'm still not that quick at Zandvoort. You know, obviously it's a new track to the F1 game from last year. Even last year, after multiple seasons, I didn't really get the hang of it completely. We had some great races around Zandvoort, don't get me wrong, but in qualifying, I was never that fast. In the race, maybe a different story. The race can change things, but here in quali, well, you can see Q1, I only just make it in. Perez is P8, so to be fair, our car is also maybe not looking that quick either, but the difference from myself to Perez is massive. That is, what, 7/10 to Sergio Perez, and I'm behind an AlphaTauri, you know, both Alpines, both Red Bull cars, you know, teams that we've been comfortably beating in quali, and yeah, I just think we actually may not even get through into the top 10 shootout, because in Sector 2, I lose so much time because I simply can't get the speed up. My mid-apex speed, I actually don't know how I'm meant to carry that much speed into, let's say, that right-hander in Sector 2. I think you know the one I'm talking about, where it's the right-hander going down up the crest, then just before that very harsh braking zone and big curb on that right. I think it's going to come up here, actually. So we go off the bend using the high line that the drivers were using in real life, and then coming into this next right-hander, I go down, I think, to 6th gear, because I have 5th gear in, because I simply don't have the turn in. I don't know how you get the turn in, because I said this last episode, but as we've upgraded the car, in some instances, the car has felt worse, and this is one of those circuits where I feel like I've got less front end than I did last season in a way, and I just can't carry the speed that AI are in that corner. Like, they're going 7th gear, they're able to get on the power so much earlier, and it's just very, very difficult. So there we are. I qualified P15 there. That was my one and only run, because I had to do 2 sets of soft tyre running in Q1 just to get into the second session, and so I only had 1 fresh set in Q2, and that's all I could muster. And we are, well, that's even worse. That's even further off Sergio Perez, because that lap time just wasn't that great. I think I did a better time in Q1, but I had 2 laps in Q1, only 1 lap in Q2, and that is it, basically. That is the sticks. Zandvoort is always going to be like this, I think, unless they, you know, patch something with the AI on this circuit. They're just rapid around here, which, you know, obviously I'll take on the chin. It's a challenge, you know, we'll see how it goes in the race. The race pace should be better than quali, because even last year on F1 2020, I was always woeful at quali anyway at Zandvoort, but I always came back in the races. But this year, obviously I know last season in Season 1, we hardly had a race because we crashed with Gasly, but I just get the sense they're even better on F1 2021, and therefore in the race, there's less of a chance for me to make a sterling comeback like I have done on F1 2020 before, but I could be wrong. Let's see. Let's go to the grids. We have a lot of damage limitation to do as the second driver, very much so, in our team today.
For years, the passionate Dutch fans have been easy to find trackside at races across Europe and throughout the world. Now, at long last, they have a Grand Prix to call their own. It's a warm welcome once again to all of our viewers in the Netherlands and around the globe as we get underway for the Dutch Grand Prix. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday puts him on pole. A very happy Carlos Sainz will start second. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Bottas, Norris, Lewis Hamilton and Ricciardo, Perez, Vettel, Stroll and Max Verstappen, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon and Tsunoda. The owner driver, Latifi, Antonio Giovinazzi and Mick Schumacher, Joe, Mazepin, Gasly, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty, and Callum Island. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So it looks like Ferrari are legitimately maybe back in Formula 1 in terms of this career mode series, because they have locked out the front row. 1-2. Amazing. Showing some incredible pace. They have actually historically done that around Zandvoort. Remember last year's game, they're always quite quick around here. Leclerc, remember, I had so many fights with Leclerc's AI on F1 2020 around Zandvoort. So Ferrari, there's something about in the water with Ferrari and the Dutch GP in the F1 game. But Perez P7 showing the car is a little bit on the back foot here, but plus myself being quite slow. So I'm going into this race expecting a little bit of pain, a bit of frustration maybe from myself in the cockpit if we're not quick enough. We're going to go with a different strategy. Everyone outside the top 10 there, apart from Fernando Alonso for some reason, is on the hard compounder tyre. So they're going longer on the first stint, then going onto softs at the end maybe. I'm going to go a very different approach. We're going to go onto medium tyres. No one else is doing this. This is giving me kind of PTSD from USA in Season 1, because we did this and it just backfired and blew up in our face because it was such a bad idea. But I think around here, the tyre wear is so high on those softs that I think the medium is actually going to turn into one of the best tyres once those tyres start going off. And then it's about kind of just playing it by ear and seeing where we are in the race, and then kind of just guessing when the best time would be to pit then for that one and only stop. Whether that's onto hards or even softs, I don't know. I feel like we just need to go a bit bonkers with this strategy to try and get something out of this race, because otherwise I will just be stuck fighting for maybe P10, and I really don't want that, because I'm too used to now fighting for at least, minimum kind of P5-4 area. So, we're going to try something bold here today, start on the mediums. It could backfire like USA last season. Hopefully not. Let's see. We had a very explosive race here in Season 1, but we didn't make it to the end. Let's hope we can do this time round as we go to 5 red lights to the Dutch Grand Prix in Season 2 as the lights are out and we're underway. It's a very slow stop. Espen Ocon, and we make a really great jump on the left-hand side there, having to kind of almost hit the grass a little bit on the left. Ocon was so slow off the line. We're side by side with Yuki Tsunoda, getting boxed in though by George Russell, trying to feed our car through on the right-hand side to go around the outside of those two at the carousel. Can we make a double overtake, boosting off that with the ERS on the high line, using what we learned from real life, the high line giving us the good exit and acceleration we're looking for, and we're up into P12. But then look at that mid-apex speed from Russell. That is what I'm talking about. The AI just can carry so much speed, and I can't, as much as I can already see the comments saying, I should go in a higher gear. I physically can't. Like the front end of this car just can't make it for some reason. I don't know if it's the setup or whatever, but it's just very tricky. But we're going to plow on, and we've got this straight line speed at least. That's one thing. Off the banking, I do have a pretty quick car in a straight line, so we're able to dive down the inside and get Max Verstappen, and we're up into P11. So doing very well, I must say, at this initial stage. First 3 laps, a couple of moves made, and we're already now getting onto the back of Fernando Alonso for the points paying positions. Where we go from here is another question, but Alonso there defending to the inside. We go to the left instead when we fake to the right. Alonso though holding the line and holding P10 for now, but can we try and size up a move into the carousel, maybe round the outside of turn 3, and again with a high line that will give us the better acceleration off the corner, switch from right to left, and we are going to get the acceleration there. It's very, very close though between myself and Fernando Alonso. We battled so much last season, and here we go again in the middle of this flat out right-hander into the next right, and Alonso, it's very fine, but we've got the move. We're up into P10, but that was a fantastic fight. GG's to Fernando Alonso, because my word, that took some balls there, I must say, from both of us to keep it going. There was a bit of contact. I was looking for if there's damage. I don't think so, but we've got simulation damage on, remember. So I don't know, because also this game doesn't really tell you the heads-up display, so we'll see how it goes. But Carlos Sainz is the one that leads the way. He leads a 1-2 for Ferrari. So at the moment, they're looking good. But remember, at this stage, on the softs, their soft tyres are definitely wearing out now. So this is a holding pattern. Everyone is trying to stretch these softs to the first pit stop for those hard tyres. So even though Ferrari are looking good right now, don't count out maybe the likes of Bottas. McLaren have looked better as of late than last episode. Norris P4, Hamilton P5, Perez in P6. So he's gained 1 position on Ricciardo, I think that was. And then the 2 Aston Martins. Then there's a 3-second gap to myself. And as we go on through this first stint, I was hoping we could maybe show some good pace on the mediums as these softs wore out. But I'm finding it difficult to catch up to the Aston Martin cars there of Vettel and Stroll. But it's an even worse day in the office for Red Bull. Both Alonso and Verstappen, last and second last, they've already made their first pit stop. Their tyres were wearing out that badly that they've made such an early pit stop. So Red Bull are having an absolute mare of a Season 2. They went from a top team in Season 1 to, well, just floundering right now in this season. You know, it looks like there's no respite for them. I think potentially Fernando Alonso may have pit also earlier because there was maybe some damage off the back of our fight, because I don't know. I mean, we made some contact. That's how, you know, sensitive the simulation damage could be. I guess we'll find out when we pit. But right now, we've overtaken both McLarens because they've both pit as well. So actually, McLaren pitting a little bit early on lap 10. 2 laps later, only now are Perez and Vettel pitting. And the Ferrari of Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. So we're now into the lead of the Grand Prix, because everyone now in the top flight has made that first pit stop off the soft compound tyre. But the McLarens, Norris is on soft, so the McLarens are doing a 2-stop, it would seem like, and maybe Red Bull as well are, and that's their mistake, because I don't think Red Bull have the pace for a 2-stop. Maybe McLaren do, I don't know. But right now, lap 13, this is the sit rep then. We are in the lead, 2.1 ahead of Carlos Sainz, who is on hards. Bottas on hards in 3rd place. Norris is P4. He's jumped Perez and Leclerc, to be fair to him, with the 2-stop strategy, the undercut, but he's on a 2-stop. He's going to have to do another stop, and I don't think he has the overwhelming pace to do that, really. Russell is in P5, flying high in the Alpine. He's not pit yet from his hard tyres, and he's actually one of the highest guys who was in that midfield fight, who started on hards. And then you've got the championship leader, Sebastian Vettel, down in P11 right now, well, him and Stroll looking a bit slower. I haven't mentioned it really, but the Aston Martins also looked a little bit slower than they have done in previous races for sure as well. So interesting difference here, with Ferrari looking better, Mercedes definitely looking a bit better, with Bottas in 3rd place. So you've got to say the R&D chart is looking pretty accurate. But look at Ricciardo, P12. And he's in a world of traffic. I just don't understand the 2-stop from McLaren here. Very, very odd. Lap 16 then, and as you can see, you know, maybe not surprising to see, but Carlos Sainz has caught me up. He's on fresh hard tyres. I'm on 16 laps old mediums here, and we get overtaken by this Spaniard. He cuts across us, can't really do too much to fight that. Obviously, at this stage, my tyres are very worn, and there's still also the caveat of I may actually have a tiny bit of wing damage. I don't know. I am feeling pretty damn slow here, but the thing is, we can actually re-overtake Carlos Sainz on the banking here. As I said earlier, our car is very quick off the banking, great straight line speed, DRS open, and we're back into the lead of this Grand Prix. So I'm basically being the most annoying person in the world right now. I'm trying my best to maintain first place, just to keep track position, to slow people down, and because I'm doing my own race, I'm trying to go as long as I can to maybe at this stage, I was starting to think, could we actually go onto soft compound tyre and just try a bonkers aggressive 1-stop here? So that's what we're going to do. And I've been helped out because on lap 17 on to 18, I think this is, yep, Bottas goes for a move on Sainz. So the Ferrari and Mercedes are fighting. This is effectively for the race lead. Remember, if you take me out of the equation, and Bottas gets through. So Mercedes really are looking a lot better into this Grand Prix. And it looks like we maybe have an actual fight for the race lead here then between Ferrari, Mercedes, and even McLaren there with Lando Norris. Meanwhile, at the end of that same lap, on to lap 19, Sergio Perez looking to make a move on George Russell. Russell's in the same position I am. He's going long. The only difference is he's on hard, so his tyres probably aren't feeling as second-hand as mine are, very much so, but he's putting up a great fight against Sergio Perez. Perez keeps his foot in on the outside into turn 3, all the way around the outside, boosts through, but Russell's still giving him a fight. Maybe it's a drag race. The Alpine looks pretty damn quick, and they're still going at it. They're still side by side, wheel to wheel, into the right-hander, and eventually Perez gets through, and Russell actually loses a second position to Leclerc. It's a great dive bomb by the Ferrari, and he's up into P6. Opportunistic there from the Ferrari as Russell was sent out to dry on the outside line. Meanwhile, Bottas is looking at us. He's 1/10 behind, pushing us through that left-hander as we are now really struggling for any sort of pace in this Grand Prix now. The tyres are very, very worn. Lap 22, and we're still on these mediums. That is not the amount of laps you're meant to be doing on these tyres, but I'm now committed to this crazy 1-stop going onto soft compound tyre. And you know what? Inadvertently, look at the minimap. I'm actually helping Perez. I'm being a team player. Even though I didn't choose to do this strategy because I wanted to do this, but inadvertently, I'm actually holding up Bottas and Sainz so much that Perez, in that clean air, he's caught up with Leclerc. Both Perez and Leclerc have caught up to Bottas and Sainz, who have joined this train. Norris is pit already for his second second pit stop, remember. The two McLarens both making an extra pit stop this afternoon. So you know, these guys are going to be the top four. Bottas will lead, Sainz in second, Perez third, and Leclerc in fourth once I come in, which is going to be right now on lap 22. So I think we've done a very good job to hold those guys up on mediums. We've, you know, I didn't, like I said, I didn't mean to, but I've helped out my teammate Perez for his championship fight versus Sebastian Vettel. And now I come in, and there was damage. There was. My team changed the front wing. There was some damage. I thought, you know, there may have been. It wasn't very apparent because it was kind of almost like Baku where there was maybe damage, but I really wasn't feeling it. I thought it was just the tyre wear, but I don't know. It's hard to tell because obviously the tyre wear was also a factor, but there was damage there, so we changed the front wing. We're on soft compound tyre. We did lose a lot of time on the last few laps there on that medium stint to the point where we're actually behind George Russell, and he was behind us, so that's how much time we lost, but we're going to gain it all back on the soft compound, whilst these guys are all on 2 compounds harder. So this is F1 2020 vibes. We did this so often where we were on the softest compound tyre at the end of the race at Zandvoort, and it paid massive dividends for us. But right now, our teammate is the one showing us how it's done. Down the inside, he goes for the dive on Carlos Sainz. This is for second place in the race. Bottas is pulling away. 1.92 seconds the gap as Perez and Sainz have a ding-dong battle. Sainz tries to scrub him off wide, but Perez keeps his foot in for the second time. He's gone round the outside of the carousel. It's a drag race once again into that very tricky right-hander, and they're going to keep it side by side, but Perez gets the turn in, and again, Sainz is left out to dry, and Leclerc is going to try that sling down the inside, and it's worked out again. So Perez is loving that move, for one, and Leclerc was licking his lips there, because he was probably just thinking, deja vu again, I can go down the inside of my teammate, just like George Russell. So it's Bottas from Perez, Leclerc, Sainz, Stroll, Hamilton, and the championship leader, Sebastian Vettel, P7. So this is massive for Sergio Perez to be in second place with Vettel in 7th. That is really big for the championship. That will be a good load of points, and that may even be the championship lead for Sergio Perez, and that's thanks to a little bit us, remember, because we held up everyone so much that Perez could catch up to the likes of Sainz. So you're welcome, Checo, you're welcome. But here we are then. We've set a purple first sector, green the second. We've caught up to George Russell, who's on mediums, so we will have the overwhelming pace versus himself off the banking. We're very quick anyway, regardless of the tyre compound. ERS across the line, and we set a purple lap time. So this unorthodox strategy, you know, it's looking, it's feeling very nice. My car's actually feeling the best it has this entire race weekend, but we've got 6.7 seconds to Norris. Whether I catch that up, I don't know. I don't think I have the pace for that, but let's see, because there is a massive train behind Sainz now. I think in his fight with Leclerc, him and Leclerc made contact, and so Sainz has some damage, because look at this. Stroll is attacking him, and he's basically being a massive bottleneck, because he's got Stroll, Hamilton, Vettel, and Norris all bunching up, and you can clearly just tell visually that Sainz is slow and he's holding these guys up. So if he holds them up enough, you know, give us a couple of laps, and if Sainz is going that slow for the next few laps, we could actually gain on them. So we're just going to bide our time, get our head down, and just do what we can do in terms of our lap times, and let's see how Sainz's progress, or lack thereof of progress, continues in this Grand Prix. As you can clearly see, like, Norris is pushing Vettel through that corner, so a lot of them are maybe facing some tyre wear as Hamilton comes in from hard compounded tyres. Oh, has he got that much tyre wear? I wonder. Okay, that's a bit of a calamity for Hamilton then. And so the bad luck continues for Hamilton, whereas his teammate leads the race. So it really is F1 2020 vibes here, with Hamilton getting no luck maybe in this Season 2, as Leclerc continues to apply pressure to Perez. You know, he's actually looking quite quick, Leclerc. So Perez needs to watch out maybe, as he may be attacked. But Bottas, compared to Hamilton, looking very good. 3 seconds the gap builds to Perez. So the Finn is looking very, very decent. And here we are then, Norris behind Vettel, Stroll, Sainz, but look in the background of these shots, you can see my car is closing up slowly but surely. We are within 1 second now of this train. It's lap 31, so a couple of laps since we last updated you on the times, and that's how much time everyone's lost being behind Sainz and in each other's dirty air. So we're actually gaining on them, and Bottas is pitting off the lead. And so Perez, is Perez going to lead? Perez with 4 laps to go. He may have just taken the race win here because he's in the lead. Leclerc up into P2. This is a massive development. And Carlos Sainz is in as well. Sainz is in. He's down to P8. We're up into P6 in the Grand Prix. And now we're going to go around the outside of Lando Norris then. Oh, made some contact with Lando. It's a carbon copy of Perez v Lando at the real-life Dutch Grand Prix there almost. We're on the inside of turn 3. We're going to try and push him out wide, use the DRS on exit, and we're going to get up into P5 now as Mazepin's going slow with the blue flags. We are flying high. We're P5. We've overtaken Norris on pure pace there with a soft compound. He's been held up by Vettel and Stroll indefinitely so much in this last part of the race. And I think we've got someone else in the pit lane as well as the 2 Aston Martins go flying past the pit lane, and Leclerc has pitted. Both Ferraris have had a disaster. 1-2 in qualifying, but in the race, they seemingly don't have the tyre wear for it. And so Leclerc's down in P6. He comes back through. He's pushing flat out to get back up into P5, just showing the actual pace that Leclerc has when the tyres are there for him. And he's made the pit stop, and he's actually re-overtaken Norris then, having made that extra pit stop for himself. But, you know, he's effectively now on a 2-stop. Hamilton as well, Bottas, Norris, you know, along with the 2 McLarens. But the 2 McLarens have struggled for that race pace, having made an earlier 2-stop, obviously. And they're P6 and 7. But the man who leads the way then is Sergio bloody Perez. Stroll in second, Vettel in third. So somehow the 2 championship rivals have ended up on a podium when it wasn't looking likely for Vettel. But here comes Sergio Perez. He's won another goddamn race in this season. Checo, what a man. He's come through. The tyre whisperer. We know how good he is in real life at protecting his tyres, and it's paid dividends because he's looked after his tyres. Bottas did not. Sainz and Leclerc did not, and he comes through for the win. Leclerc almost caught back up to us, to be fair, showing the pure pace he had to make one more stop and almost re-overtake us for that position. But we finish up in a very lofty P4. How the hell have we done that? How has Perez done that? And the 2 Astons as well. Major tyre issues for a lot of people here, and it's mixed everything up.
So after a day of mixed fortunes up and down the field, we bring today's race to a close. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
Well, Crofty, this was won through an abundance of speed and an abundance of skillful overtakes. Inside, outside, cutting underneath, we saw it all today. And it's really nice to see a Grand Prix won in that manner. A race, surely, that will satisfy the purists today, I think.
Here comes your top 3 making their way down to the podium for what can only be described as a fantastic day for Formula 1.
So Perez wins the Dutch Grand Prix, and that is going to be a big moment because that might see him into the lead of the Drivers' Championship for the first time this season. Vettel's been leading for so long now. You know, he's still very consistent, Mr. Consistent Vettel, in a podium position. 2 Astons did really well, to be fair. Both of them in P2 and 3. That's big for them in terms of their constructors fight versus us, of course. But we've done well to back Perez up and do at least the bare minimum and get P4 there to try and minimise the damage that Aston Martin do to us in the Constructors' Championship. But on that 1-stop, the top 4 are the only guys doing a 1-stop there, apart from Russell. He was P9. But everyone else had a mare, and they had to pit late on for a 2nd stop, apart from the McLarens, who committed early to the 2-stop. McLaren knew the tyres wouldn't last, I guess, but they did for Perez and the Astons. So all 3 of those guys did very well, as well as ourselves, because obviously that first stint for ours on the mediums, that's what did it for us. If we didn't have such a long stint on mediums, I don't think we would have been here. So what a blistering turn of events that has been for us as a team, as an individual here to get P4. Like I said, top 5 would have been a miracle for us, and miracles have happened. But Sergio Perez does lead the way on number of wins, because Perez and Vettel are on equal points. This is turning into an absolutely titanic and amazing championship fight between Perez and Vettel. That is going to be sensational going into the next Italian Grand Prix. Guys, if you did enjoy this episode, then be sure to hit that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do subscribe for weekly Formula 1 content. And I will see you guys next time. What a crazy Dutch GP.